Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. My name is Rose Joshua. I'm your host today for Family and Finance. Today, I have an amazing couple who I really admire a lot. And I like the fact that we're color coordinated. This is so cool. I like the blue, right? And they're going to talk about themselves but they come from one of the most beautiful countries in the world, Zimbabwe, the land of the Victoria Falls. Introducing Nick and Dorothy MASVIKENI. But before I ask them to introduce themselves, I want to first of all show you their contact, so you have that in your mind while they speak, so that if you need to reach out to them, please do. So let me just share my screen for a few seconds. The contact for Dorothy and Nick MASVIKENI, 780-920-1501 and 780-993-4114. Okay, so you can pause, copy that, and let's move on. All right. So Uncle Nick and Mama Dora, I'd like to call you. Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Awesome. Good. So let's start by you talking about yourself and take it away. Tell us about yourself, what you do, especially what you do for families with respect to finance. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for having us and also giving us the opportunity to share what we are so passionate about. But first, I have been in Canada for a number of years now, and I am a qualified CPA in Canada, and also have got an MBA. What is very important to us is that we are so passionate about helping families here in Canada. Why so? Is because we want to share our experiences that we have had since we have been here in Canada, with our friends, with our fellow immigrants, with also the low to medium income people, because of the experiences that we've had and the information that we've managed to obtain since then. But otherwise, so we are so passionate about that.
Awesome.
And I'm here with my beautiful wife, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Dorothy, do you want to talk about yourself?
Well, I'm a human resources practitioner by profession, but like we said, we are so passionate about helping other families to understand how finances work in Canada. Thank you.
Awesome. So CPA means Certified Professional Accountant, is that correct?
Sometimes it is called that way, but it also called Chartered Professional Accountant. Chartered
Professional Accountant. Okay, that sounds good. And I love that you have a solid background of finance. And you love to work with immigrants, and low to middle income families. What is it about immigrants and low to middle income families that basically compels you to want to work with this demographic?
Dr. Rose, from where I came, I was working in the financial service sector and for many years. And when I came over to North America, I realized that, the financial systems are quite different. And obviously, if they are different for me as a new immigrant here in Canada, I'm sure there are a lot more others that also share the same experiences, that they find that the financial systems are different. I was blessed, or I am blessed, because I've an experience of the other system because I worked within it. And also here, I took it upon myself after realizing it is different, that I learned more about how the financial service systems actually work here. And out of that, then that's where my passion actually came out, that I think I needed to help a number of families so that they understand how money works here, because it's different. Whilst if it is different for me, I'm sure many others experience the same. But not just for immigrants. You find that even those that have been here for a very long time, even those that were born here, you know, they don't understand everything about the financial system here. And that is really where my passion comes from.
So it's really about educating people about how money works. And so that's really good. That's really good. So let's kind of do a deep dive. So let's say you meet a brand new immigrant, okay? How do you go about helping this person? How do you engage and how do you go about helping them?
All right. The first thing, obviously, is to welcome them when I meet the family and sit down with them and try to understand exactly what are their needs, what do they hope to achieve here in Canada, and also what are their fears. Based on that, I try then to tell them all the information that I know about a new immigrant, what they actually need. I direct them to their appropriate resources, to the appropriate places for them to get the information that they need. And also, obviously, one thing that they also discuss, obviously, is the issues to do with their monies, right? How do they deal with their monies? And I certainly then come up with solutions with them that obviously make that their finances are actually secure, and also direct them based on their objectives that they would have said they want to achieve here. I'll actually help them in coming up with solutions that are relevant and appropriate for such issues that they want to achieve. I think that would be that would be the starting point.
Right. Right. So I did hear that when you mentioned that you came to Canada like almost a decade ago, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Did I hear that? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about correct.
So I'm gonna go to Mama Dora. So I know that, so I know Uncle Nick are gonna do most of the talking today, but you have this very capable woman sitting beside you. And they say behind every successful man is a successful woman. So tell me, Mama Dora, so remember when you came in as a new immigrant, what were some of the shocks, I would say, because immigrants come in and there's a culture shock, and it's not just a culture shock, but there's shocks, especially on the finance level, on the financial things. So tell me what was your experience and how did you kind of recover from it, so to say?
Okay, so coming into Canada and trying to understand how everything works, including, of course, my finances, there was still that element of mistrust coming from my country, which was in a hyperinflation environment, where maybe you bank your money today, tomorrow it's not worth much. So coming to Canada, you still bring that element of mistrust for the financial services, because I'm not sure how they work and what are the systems in place to hedge against such things as inflation. And I'm happy to say that, when I then started learning about the financial services here, I realized that, the government actually protects that sector in some form or another. And that gave me comfort to be able to invest my money, put money even in a savings account, which I could not trust back home.
Well, yeah, that's really big. That's actually big. So then I would say, Uncle Nick, then you focus on kind of addressing some of the mistrust or distrust, whichever word you prefer to use, about the financial system, so at least they can believe. And how do you go about that? How do you help people to get past the distrust of the system, especially with the baggage, I would say baggage from whichever country they're coming from.
Yeah. I will certainly talk about the mindset change, but I also want to highlight, in addition to the banking system in terms of their savings, I also want to talk about what also happens in a hyperinflationary environment is that whatever insurance that one had, when you buy your insurance, you're actually buying to protect your income in the future, right? You also save for retirement in the future. But what happens with hyperinflation is that all those plans that you had for insurance, for your pension savings, they will disappear. They lose value to the extent that, those that have experienced that, they have got this mistrust of those kind of instruments that are available, that were available for them. And obviously, in this environment, they will still be skeptical about that because they experienced it firsthand, right? And as such, that is now where the issue of mindset comes in terms of to say, this is a new environment. These are the examples, the experiences that you can actually share with them to say, this is a more stable economy. Is not the same as maybe those economies that they came from or that we came from. And certainly there is value in those long-term savings and long-term protection of your income.
Yeah.
Yes,
so it's a good thing to trust the North American system, Canada, United States. This is so that's really good. Now, question for you then, when an immigrant comes in for the first time, they because they don't understand the financial system, they make a lot of mistakes. Okay. Yes. So I know that you aim to help people to avoid those mistakes. However, can you please kind of share with us some of the most common mistakes and how you assist your clients to avoid or overcome them?
Okay, thank you. The very first thing is that where money is involved, you need to start by planning or budgeting. A budget is a plan, right? And we need to plan for success, right? We don't want to fail to plan, which is really planning to fail. I mean, when we don't plan, we're actually planning to fail. So that's not what we want to do. So when we sit down with our clients, we actually look at the resources that they have and help and understand what their expenses are like, and also their objectives that they want to achieve in the short term and also in the long term, and then come up with a particular plan or budget that will then ensure that they achieve those particular objectives. So one critical mindset change there will certainly be to say, some actually say, oh, I don't have enough, I don't earn enough to be able to do a budget. And that is not true, or that is not right. So what we try to educate our clients is to say, it doesn't matter how much you have. The smaller the amount that you have, the even better need for you to plan for it, so that it is actually deployed to the specific areas that have got an impact more to your life, to your family, and to your generations as well, right? So it doesn't matter the amount that you have. That is mindset number one in terms of what we need to plan. We also have noted that some people, or we tend to rent for too long.
Yeah, sorry, you're starting a new topic. I wanted to actually comment on that budget that you talked about, and I want to say, good job. Like, I applaud you for doing that, because it's amazing how just following a budget can help somebody. A lot of people just spend blindly, And then when the money finishes, it's like, oh, what happened to all that money, right? And I like what you said about being able to budget regardless of how much money you make, right? Because if somebody says, oh, I don't make enough, therefore I cannot budget, that's actually, it creates a vicious cycle, right? Where they don't budget because they don't have enough, and then they end up not having enough because they're not budgeting.
Exactly.
And also saying we can't save because we don't have a lot of money. But even if you save $5, if you have saved $10 a month, that goes a long way towards your long-term goal. So those are some of the mindset changes that we talk about.
Mindset changes. Just do something. Don't just do nothing.
Exactly.
I like that. I really do. I love it. Thank you. I wanted to just kind of wrap my head completely around it. But yeah, thanks for raising that. So yeah, you were talking about common mistake number 2. I could hear you coming along there. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Many immigrants, when they come into Canada, it's one of the requirements that they need to have certain cash resources before they move into Canada. So when they come over here, even when we sit with them, they obviously, we talk about the money that they have. And of course, some have $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 that they bring into Canada. And wow. Yeah, that's the reality that there is. Even more, some obviously have got more resources than others.
That's amazing.
But for certain immigrants are required to have a certain amount of cash resources before they actually come into Canada. As such, what we have found is that many immigrants actually rent for too long. And guess what? They will also be using that cash for paying their rentals, right? And we actually, when we sit down with them, we actually talk about what they could actually possibly use that cash, because some will actually say we want to own a home, but they don't know how. So with the cash that they bring in, we actually help them invest those ones into RRSPs, which the government allows them to use to deposit for their home. And if you know, I don't know if you know this, that many people want to own homes, but they fail to do so because they don't have a deposit. They can't raise a deposit to do so. So similarly for immigrants, if they stay too long whilst renting, then they also get into that particular trap that they will not be able to buy a home. So what we normally recommend is that they need to buy their home within 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year at more, but on average, just over 6 months. That's what we normally recommend, whilst they still have that amount that they bring into Canada. So that will enable them to buy a home, to use that money for deposit and buy a home. Once they exceed the 1 year, you may actually find that, yeah, it's unlikely that they are going to buy a home. And we're actually saying it from experience, because if you were to ask me today that whether I would have been able to raise any money now to buy a home, maybe I would not have been able to raise deposit. But we are so happy that we managed to buy our own home using the cash that we brought from abroad.
That is amazing. And I have to applaud you. Like, as you're speaking, I'm getting some flashbacks, not just for myself, but for people I know. I tell you, I want to applaud you because you practice what you preach, in the sense that you were able to buy a home with money you brought in as an immigrant, okay? And not many people have been able to achieve that. And it's very interesting what you say about renting for too long. I know people who rent for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years. Okay, and so it becomes like you say, it's a trap, because okay, let's do the math. So let's say somebody rents an apartment And typically it's an apartment we rent or a townhouse or something small.
Mhm.
We rent it for how much? How much is the going rent these days?
1,200, 1,500.
Okay, so let's take the smaller number, 1,200. So 1,200 for a year is 14.4.
Yeah.
12
that's
times
correct.
12 is 144. Okay.
Mhm.
So for 2 years, it's already 28,008.
Mhm.
And for 3 years, we're already into 43,000.
Mhm.
If somebody brought in $50,000 cash from Zimbabwe, let's stay with your country, like your home country.
Mhm.
In 3 years, the money is gone.
Yep.
It's
But if
gone.
they use let's say they use the $25,000 as down payment for a house, then they have a home. But in
Yes.
3 years, that money is gone down the toilet.
That's very true, Dr. Rose. They now have got a
That's frightening.
they now have got a home. But besides that, if they actually put that money in their home, they're actually putting equity into their home. It's more like a saving. You
Yes.
are saving your money into a real asset, into a tangible asset, if you get what I'm saying, property. So that way, that they're actually making a saving. But if you are renting, you are not.
Wow, it's like, honestly, because here's another story, and this is a true story. I'm not going to mention names, of course, but I know somebody who came from somewhere, not in Canada, came in as an immigrant and used his money to buy cash down an F-150 truck.
Okay.
Because he liked it. You know, he's in movies and, you know, it looks cool. You know, I look good in it, and money down the toilet. Like, I know it's a car, you know, cars are great, but, you know, maybe comment about that, please help me, because I think this is a really good conversation, because what we're discussing is practical things that people go through. So maybe you can, okay, let's talk about the car, for example. Mama Dora, so somebody comes in with 50K cash, they spend $15,000 on 1 year's rent, they spend $35 and buy an F-150. Help me, help.
Well, not to take away the fact that they need a car, the reason why we are actually trying to help our fellow immigrants to understand how the finances work is to avoid such blunders, because there are ways of acquiring that car that will make you retain your cash and probably even grow it, and then be able to buy that car, be able to have that car and be paying for it little by little, and also at the same time purchase a property and be able to be paying for that property, building equity, like Nick said already, that you'll be building equity as you're paying off your mortgage. So it's important to understand how money works in all directions so that you avoid such blunders.
Yeah, so indeed, you can actually like eat your cake and have it.
Exactly.
So you're saying, okay, I like the sound
Exactly.
of that. I like to eat my cake and still have it. This is really cool. I'm actually having a lot of fun with this. So Uncle Nick, carry on. I know you have a long list of common mistakes that immigrants make.
For sure.
So yeah, what else do we have?
Okay, the other mistake obviously is issues to do with credit cards. Credit cards, these are nice to have stuff. You know, it's kind of fashionable to have credit cards. But what is important is that obviously some of the economies where we come from, they do not generally use credit cards. But in North America, credit cards is like, it's a must kind of have. It's a necessary evil, if I may call it, but you need to know how to use them. I think that's the key thing. You need to know how to use them so that you do not go into a spiral debt issue, because credit cards attract high interest rates. That's the evil about them. If you are not careful, you could actually be paying those rates like 20%, 30% on credit cards. But at the same time, you find somebody may actually have cash in the bank and at the same time have a credit card, which is cash in the bank, they are earning less than 1% interest. And in a credit card, they are being charged 20%. So those are some of the things that we try to understand where our clients are coming from and try to help them so that they can minimize the interest that they pay on the credit cards and also ensure that they actually earn more on their savings, right? That's one aspect with credit cards. But the other issue about credit cards, not issue, but something benefit, is that credit cards actually are generally used to build one's credit here in Canada, in North America, because without a credit history, you may actually find that you may actually have challenges in accessing the mortgages that we're talking about, in accessing other facilities that you may actually require. Even renting a property, you may actually fail to rent a property because you do not have credit history that tells how good you are with monies, right? And that's exactly why we actually try to fill in that particular gap by helping these families understand how to build their good history from credit cards and also minimize on the interest that they pay.
So then is a case of well, like it's a necessary evil, right?
Yes,
and so you've talked around, you actually do advise your clients. So what should they do with a credit card? I know we're building it up. So it's basically swipe and pay.
Exactly.
Swipe, pay. Don't carry a balance.
That's the idea.
That's the idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, so credits are an amazing thing. Credit is good and bad. There's some good credit, there's some bad credit. I know that credits include things like payday loans, right? Can you help us with that? Like, is there something that immigrants need to know about payday loans?
Payday loans, they must stay away from them.
Why is that?
That's what I can say.
Why is that?
All right. Payday loans, you actually go to borrow because you've got an emergency. That could be one reason why you go and borrow that, payday loans. And also you can easily just be in that vicious circle where you are just relying on those payday loans. But what I can say is that the payday loans, the interest is humongous. Let me call it that way. Yeah, the interest that you pay, you may not realize it, that it is humongous. It's more than this 30% that I was talking about. Generally, it's more than that. So if it is more than 30%, there is nowhere that where you are earning anything that it would enable you to pay the capital and also the interest. And your pay, the more you use it, the more you go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And the ability for you to come out of it is next to zero. So
it's a quick
advice is just stay away from them as much as possible.
Wow. Okay. So my alarm just went off, which means we've spent good time. And I know that you haven't even started. So
very true.
This has been I think it's just opening up the Pandora's box, right? It's just opening.
Yeah, that's true.
But honestly, I've had a lot of fun. Like this has been, it's not funny. Okay. It is actually a sad situation, but the reason it seems like, I'm laughing a lot is because I've been there. I've made a lot of these mistakes that you talk about. Like, I've, one of these days I'll tell my story. But
oh yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to say. So you have a lot to share as well.
yeah. I've been there, so I know. I can just kind of, when I say I had flashbacks, yeah, it's amazing how many mistakes we make over time just because we don't understand money. But Uncle Nick, Mama Dora, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really, really educative. I'm sure that my listeners would want you to come back, because you must come back and finish that list, because I know you and I saw a long list that you had. So, and I don't think we covered 1/3 of it. So we definitely have to do this quickly. I don't want even a month to pass. I want it to be like maybe next week or something. Like, we really need to address some of these issues with a sense of urgency.
For sure.
Just so my audience, I'm sorry?
Yeah, these are very important things that we could actually want to share, what we want to share. Therefore, yeah, the earlier we can do this, the better. Yes. Thank you so much. And so today, just recapping, you talked about budgeting, which appears to be simple, but is actually one of the most fundamental things that can help anybody with putting themselves in order. You've talked about credit and what else? I made a lot of notes. And renting, and the big thing about mindset change, okay, and also about trusting the system. That's a big deal. Trusting that in Canada and the United States, the government is on your side. That's true. Yeah. And the government is really after consumer protection. So this is not a place where your money would disappear. Right. So thank you so much once again. I know that we're going to come back and continue because it's really important that my audience hears the things that you have to share, and also that they connect with you. So I'm telling my guys, audience out there in Canada, in the United States, reach out to Nick and Dorothy. They have a lot of financial expertise to help us to put our lives together, put our finances in order. There's so many things that we can talk about, but we'll continue next week on this topic. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to share again their contact. Let me see if I can find that. Yes, it is right here. Let's share my screen for another split. Few seconds. Yeah. So Nick and Dorothy MASVIKENI, 780-920-1501, 993-4114. Please reach out to them and work with them to get your finances on the right track. Thank you so much. And once again, my brother, my sister, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Rose.
God bless you too.
Thanks. Yeah.